This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, we're in the last parak of Sefer Zecharia, parak Yudalid, and parak Yudalid is a well-known nevuah, a well-known prophecy. It's a prophecy that we lean on Sukkos, and it's the prophecy of what is called Melchemes Gog Umagog. And amazingly, even though Melchemes Gog Umagog is mentioned frequently in Shas, nevertheless, Kemat is very rare if anybody knows what it is and who is Gog Umagog. And we're going to learn a new explanation today. What is Melchemes Gog Umagog? Just as an introduction, there are two places in the Nevi'im that discuss in depth Melchemes Gog Umagog. You have the Navi Yecheskel and you have the Navi Zecharia. Now, there are two Gemaras in Shas that discuss how one should be protected from Melchemes Gog Umagog. They asked Rabbi Yochanan, "Ma yasa adam yinatzel mechevle shel Mashiach umi Melchemes Gog Umagog?" What should a person do to save themselves? And the Gemara says, "Yasik b'Torah v'gemilas chasadim." Should learn Torah and do chesed. Elsewhere, the Gemara says in Shabbos, Masechta Shabbos, the Gemara says somebody who eats 3 sudos on Shabbos will be saved mechevle shel Mashiach. So a little bit of a stira. Is it Torah and chesed, or is it 3 sudos? So the Marsha says either one has the power to protect you. Now, we learned in Parak Yud Gimel in in Zecharia, and I think the sheet. Do you have on your sheets page Reish Mem Beis? What sheets do you have?
Yeah, I have Reish Mem Beis.
So if you look on the bottom of Reish Mem Beis, if you remember, at the end of Parak Yud Gimel, it says Parak Yud Daled, Parak Yud Gimel, Pasuk Ches, Pasuk said, "V'haya b'chol ha'aretz nam Hashem pi shnayim ba yikarsu yigvau v'hashlishis yivasar ba," and it will be in all the land 2 times will be cut off. I'm going to give it out soon. I don't have the sheet. 2 times is going to be cut off, and the 3rd will be remaining. So the Abarbanel, in the left-hand column on page Reish Mem Beis, the Abarbanel pointed out that for about 7 lines from the bottom, "Hu oimroi v'hashivoisi yadi al hatsayarim," I will turn my hand on the oppressors. That Mulchama will be, the Mulchama in the end of Parak Yud Gimel will be Al Admas HaKodesh, between the Noitzrim and the Anshe HaMizrach, who are the Bnei Yishmael. V'yiyu Shama Gamkein Adas Bnei Yisrael. So basically the Abarbanel says they are the 3 groups, the Shalosh Kitos. Who are the 3 Kitos? Edom, Yishmael, and Yisrael. So these 3 groups include in it Kemat, most of the nations of the world. So when we say 2 groups will gather there, and they'll be cut off, in other words, when it says Pishnayim ba yikarsu yigvao, that refers to the cutting off of Esav and Yishmael, which according to the Abarbanel, Esav will suffer a far worse fate than Yishmael. Okay, that was the end of Parak Yud Gimel. In other words, according to Abarbanel, and the Metzudas also learns this way, it discusses the 3/3. And who are the 3/3? Edom, Yishmael, Yisrael. Okay.
This is saying that the actual Mulchama is going to be on the territory of Eretz Yisrael.
Yeah. Okay. So now we come to Parak Yud Daled, and this parak discusses the great war of what is known as Melchemes Gog Umagog. Now, the Malbim points out, Ata Yisaper Echyavoi Gog Umagog B'Pam Ha'achron Al Yishmael. In other words, it's not a war of, according to the Malbim, Gog versus Magog, but rather Gog and Magog come the final time to Yerushalayim. In other words, says the Malbim, all the other times that they try to come, in Sefer Yecheskel, Parak Lamed Ches, they never reach Yerushalayim. They have never yet reached Yerushalayim, according to the Malbim. But on that day, Hine Yoim Ba'al Hashem, behold, a day is coming to God, B'chulak Shalalech B'Kerbech. and your spoils will be divided in you. What does this mean? Says Rashi, Hine Yoim, a day is coming, Chaviv LaHakadosh Baruch Hu, that will be beloved to God. V'chulek shlalech b'kirbech, shalal shetashlale me'oivim yichalku yoshvayech b'kirbech. In other words, you will now take spoils from your enemies who dwell in you. Like the Targum Yonasan ben Uziel translates, V'yiflagun b'nei Yisrael nichsei amamaya b'gavech Yerushalayim. So what's happening here? What exactly is Melchemes Gog uMagog? I would venture to say most people think Melchemes Gog uMagog is some foreign nation will come and attack the Jewish people, some nation that we don't know who it is, we can't identify. And perhaps that is the majority view, but that is not the view of the Abarbanel. Do you have page Reish Mem Gimel? Did I make copies of that for you?
Yeah.
Okay, if you don't have it, I'm going to give you a booklet now. A new booklet. Okay, does everyone have a booklet? Anyone have a booklet? What?
It's the same ones that you gave out last.
But I have until what page do you have?
Reish Mem Vav. Reish Mem Vav.
Reish Mem Vav?
Yeah, well, the last one.
Okay.
Dollar Gimel Vav.
Okay. So good. If anybody needs more, there are more copies over here. Okay. So the Abarbanel begins like this. Hine yoim ba Hashem v'chulak shlalech b'kirbech. Here there are more booklets. Says the Abarbanel, Hamefarshim pirshu hanavuah azois amelchemes Gog uMagog. The Mefarshim explain this prophecy on the war of Gog uMagog. K'may oisa nevuah sheniva aleh Yecheskel. Similar, just like Yecheskel prophesied. Okay, so Abarbanel is quoting the opinion of the Mefarshim that this prophecy is reference to Melchemes Gog uMagog. V'gam ani oide lohem bazeh, and I consent to the opinion of the Mefarshim. Aval ma tia inyan oisa melchama. But what that war will be like, this is where the two opinions diverge. Says Abarbanel, I'm not embarrassed to say that many, many times I've already expressed my opinion that differs with the rest of the Mefarshim. Because all the other Mefarshim hold that Gog uMagog, that is a mighty and powerful nation, will come. Asher b'tzad hatzvoini hamizrach. The other Mefarshim maintain that Gog uMagog is on the northeast. What are they? Who are they?
Northeast of who?
Of Israel.
So Iran is north.
Who are they? Unknown. Li'ilachim al Yisrael achar gulasam. In other words, after Tikah b'shofar gadol l'chiruseinu, after that great shofar blast, and all the Jews will come to Eretz Yisrael from the four corners of the world, then Gog uMagog is going to be jealous. What's going on? Is this the final redemption? Kishe yishama, when they hear sheiskabtzu hagolios v'sheyas Hashem yizbarach zeh letzaref es hashlishus. When Gog uMagog hears the ingathering of the exiles, now we know who will survive until that time. We already said 2/3 will be wiped out. It's only Klal Yisrael that will survive. Asher Hashem b'nei Yisrael she'yishar ba. And Gog uMagog will come and attack the third. And in other words, God will now purge and purify the final third. That is the opinion of the majority of the Mefarshim. Who is Gog uMagog? Unknown. We haven't met them yet.
Doesn't the majority say that Gog and Magog are two separate
No.
Really? Did we learn these?
No, we never learned that.
Somebody says Gog Meek.
No, we never said anything. No.
Isn't that Gog from a place called Magog?
What?
Isn't it Gog from a place called Magog?
Rabbi Shamshon Falher says Magog is the disseminator of the machshava, of the opinion of Gog. Gog, and the mem is the memha, like ar and ma'ar, to give off. So Gog and Magog is the one who disseminates the opinion of Gog. That is the majority view. Majority view is they are an Am Otzum Barav V'chazak Ma'oid, northeast.
What's the sequence of events according to the majority view? First, all the ingatherings happen?
First, there'll be an ingathering of the Jewish people,
Yeah.
whereupon Gog Magog attacks.
Who does the ingathering? According to them.
Mashiach. Yemaisa Mashiach. That is the opinion of Hamafarshim. Says Abarbanel, V'ani kvar biyarti she'ein adar ve'ein kain. I hold it's not true. Ela sha'kadosh baruch hu ba'achros hazam. Now, we learned part of this, but we didn't learn the whole thing. We learned Abarbanel and Oivadya. Abarbanel says in Oivadya that b'achros hayamim, Edom will say enough is enough. It's bad enough that the Jewish people were living in Israel. Bad enough that Jewish people occupy the city that our God is buried. But now the Yishmaelim are there. So we already learned in Oivadya that the Edomim, that Esav will come and try to liberate Jerusalem from the hands of Yishmael. That we learned. We never said that has anything to do with Milchemes Gog u'Magog. Here, the Abarbanel and Zecharia sort of references to what he said in Oivadya, and he says, in my opinion, Milchemes Gog u'Magog is the war of Edom and Yishmael. Let's explain. There's a Yalkut Shimoni in Sefer Tehillim, Per Kuf Yud Ches. You know what Ois Kuf Yud Ches? You know what Ois Kuf Yud Ches is? On the pasuk. Kol goyim svavuni b'shem Hashem ki amilam sabuni gam svavuni. Okay, says the Medrash in Tehillim. Asid goy gomagog lehilachim im Yisrael gimel pa'amim. There are going to be 3 wars. Okay, so the Medrash says there are going to be 3 wars of Gog u'Magog. I saw in a sefer that Rabbi Chanan Wasserman said, he heard, I believe from the Chavetz Chaim, that 2 of the wars we already experienced. World War I, World War II, and the 3rd war will make the first 2 pale in comparison to the 3rd one. That's supposedly what the Chavetz Chaim said. As we're going to see, the Abarbanel does not agree with that assessment of what the 3 wars are, because Abarbanel B'chlal holds that Milchemes Gog u'Magog is the war of Yishmael against Edom, and who will win? Ding, ding, ding! Yishmael. The Yidden are not part of the war. Doesn't mean the Jewish people will not suffer from the war, but it's not a war against Klal Yisrael. According to Abarbanel, it's the war of Yishmael versus Edom. Something I did not know. I was not aware of this. That's Milchemes Gog u'Magog, Yishmael versus Edom. We had many shiurim, especially recently, about Yishmael. Who's going to win? Is it going to be Paras, which Maral identified as Yishmael, or is it going to be Edom? And there are different opinions actually in the Gemara in Yuma. We once said that Reb Chaim Kanievsky's understanding of the Chad Gadya is that Yishmael will stand last. Okay, but according to the Abarbanel, the Navi is saying Yishmael will destroy Edom. So if you have your cards with the United States of America, you may want to, if you're a betting man and you want to bet on USA.
Could be Turkey against Russia.
Well, Yishmael, we know who Yishmael is. Yishmael. And Abarbanel's opinion is that the Western world is Edom.
Problem is Yishmael is fractionated as well. Fighting amongst each other, killing themselves.
I don't know if Russia is Yishmael. I don't think they're considered Yishmael, and I don't think they're considered Edom. What are they? I don't know.
Where the Turks
You know, I think, by the way, I think many nations are I think they're aware of this machlokes between the Abarbanel and the other Mefarshim. You know, some Mefarshim, Russia says we want to go like the Rav Mefarshim, that's some powerful nation from the north, and we want to be Gog u'Magog. And the Arabs are saying, no. The Abarbanel says it's us. You know, I think there's you see the struggle. Who's going to win the machlokes between the Abarbanel and the Rav HaMefarshim? I don't know. Could it be Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim Chaim? I don't know.
Against Yishmael doesn't help us.
Shema v'zishma, no. Okay, so Rabbi said, let's read this inside. I think this is like an epic commentary. He says, V'ani kvar biyarti she'ena davar v'enai ken ela shakadosh baruch hu ba'achros hazam v'ketz agos yoyer eslavav b'nei edom lalis ushalayim lekavsha. God will inspire the Western world, Edom, the Noitzrim, to conquer Shalayim. V'yoyer gamkin as goy gumagog. God will also inspire goy gumagog hashoichnim b'yarchas eitzafain, that live in the far reaches of the north. Now is Yishmael in the far north? Maybe. Lebanon, Syria?
That's not far.
V'gam eshar ha'umois hashoichnes l'tzad mizrach. The other nations to the east. Are they in the east?
Iran's to the east.
Iran? Iraq? Afghanistan? I don't know. They're east. They're far east. Lavoi ala noitzim ha'arel mahem. They will come against the Christians, b'nei Edom, lahachrimam, to destroy them, ulhadicham in aretz. V'al zeh tia b'neiam milchama atzuma. There will be a tremendous war. V'zehu yoim Hashem hamiyud b'divrei hanavim. Whenever you see in the words of the Nevi'im, the day of God, the day of the God, is the day the Yishmaelim wipe out the Noitzrim. V'yein tachlisoi. And what's the purpose of this war? Kiyim laseis nikmas Hashem be'edom. To revenge against Edom. Be'etzem. Inherently, v'rishayna. First against them, then they'll take revenge against all the other nations that have harmed the Jewish people. Now, where will this war take place? It's going to be in Israel. Why? Because b'makom haresha shama yiyeh hamishpat. Where these nations carried out their atrocities, that's where they'll be punished.
Most of the notes don't live in. Right.
That's what he said. They're going to be aroused to come to Yerushalayim and liberate it from the Yishmaelim. That's what he says.
That was hundreds of years ago.
That was. Well, we'll see, because Chazal say there are 3 wars. So we'll have to see, according to Abarbanel, what are the 3 wars? V'ra'isi b'divreim. I saw in the words of Chazal, Sh'amar shloisha pamim ba goy gumagog Yerushalayim. 3 times goy gumagog came on to Jerusalem. Uv'shlishis heim ba'im va'olam liYerushalayim. The 3rd time they're going to come mamish. Ve'im oilam liYehuda, they will come to Shevet Yehuda, and they will conquer them. So he says 2 lines down. Umi yitain ve'eda me'ayin lakhu Chazal akdam hazois. From where do Chazal derive that there will be 3 wars? Shegimel pa'amim yavai goygal Yerushalayim. Ki Yechezkel lo nive ki yim pam achas. Yechezkel only prophesied again about 1 time. The answer is, Avalheim be'emes chachmu hiskilu hadas hazeh. Chazal, with great insight, understood what the 3 wars are. Because it's like I say, Asher hiskamti alav, you ready for this? Goy gu magoig heim ha-Yishmaelim. Goy gu magoig is Yishmael. So here you have it, black and white. You can't have it any more clear. According to Abarbanel, Goy gu Magog is identified as Yishmael. Asher b'yarchas Eitzafain, that are in the far reaches of the north. Say, come on, where they're in the North Pole? There's ISIS in the North Pole, but not ISIS.
Who's he referring to?
What?
On the north? Who's he saying?
He's referring to Yishmael.
Well, they did. They invaded up to Spain. They came out of Africa, went to Spain. Now,
Spain is the north?
Huh? Now, thank God, with all the guys who are basically running away from Syria, are going up to all the European countries.
Is that the north?
Yes.
Depends, north of Spain, but not north of Eretz Yisrael.
Spain is not northwest of Eretz Yisrael. Europe is all. When you take a plane, you always go north before you come around.
He says, "Va'oisem kvar bo al Yerushalayim shtei pa'amim." They've already come onto Yerushalayim 2 times.
They being
The Arabs, Yishmaelim. This is Gog Magog. Chazal say Gog Magog will come 3 times. Number 1, Harishayna hi kishabou al bnei Edom. The first time is when they conquered Edom. When is that? Chel haroimiyim shayu moshel Eretz Yisrael. The Roman legions that conquered and took over Eretz Yisrael. Min ha'es asher lachta Titus, from the time that Titus conquered it. Ad asher bo oisam ha'yishmael aleim, until Yishmaelim came upon them. The lakchu as Eretz Yisrael b'chazaka, and they took Eretz Yisrael with force. V'achrivu chel haroimiyim, and they destroyed and conquered the Romans. Shayu yoshron la. In other words, according to the Abarbanel, the first time Yishmael came was after Roman occupation. Yishmaelim came.
Because Rome flipped over
When?
Christianity.
When did the Yishmaelim take over Eretz Yisrael? After Roman occupation. So we're talking about 1st century, 2nd century. When was the second time? Upamshein is bo gamkein bimei hatzarfasim. The second time is when they came in the days of the French. Ushar hanoitzim sha'alu al Eretz Yisrael. The other noitzim that came to Eretz Yisrael. V'kivshua. When was that? The Gezeras Tadnu in 1096, after the Crusades. After the Christians of France, of Europe, conquered Eretz Yisrael, conquered Yerushalayim, the Yishmaelim retook it. That was take 2. Now the Crusaders lived in Israel 85 years. Pehei Shana. V'shavu ha'yishmaelim ahem v'yilachmu imahim. The Yishmaelim fought with them v'yigarshim in Aretz. V'yikchlas Yerushalayim v'achziku ba'ad ha'yom hazeh. V'hapam ha'shlishis hi la'asid lavai. And the third time Yishmael will take over Yerushalayim is at the end of days. How's that? Because Edom will come retake Yerushalayim, and Yishmael will take it from. Yeah, but we're there now, so it's ours. People make a very big mistake. People think that because we have Eretz Yisrael today, somehow we have a guarantee that it will remain in our possession until Mashiach comes. As far as I know, there are no prophets who told us that. In fact, I heard from Gedolei Yisrael that we have no guarantees about the current state of Eretz Yisrael. Yeah. We have no promises. As far as I know, prophecy ended in the times of Malachi, and all the tefillos that people want to say, they're just tefillos, but they're just political statements. Do we know that the fact that we have control of Eretz Yisrael today means that it will remain that way until Mashiach comes? We have no guarantees. No guarantees. And nobody could argue with that. What? You know, you could learn about Melchemes Magog and Magog as a fairy tale, or you could learn it as it's supposed to be learned. This is reality. This is, according to Abarbanel, the Edomim will come, they'll try to retake it, they will retake it, and Yishmael will destroy them. And at that point, it will revert to us. That's what he says, black and white.
So the Bnei Israel are going to then have a war with Yishmael and be victorious. How are we going to get back from Yishmael after Yishmael conquers?
It seems like God himself will destroy them. Well, what we're going to see, that's Parak Yudalad of Zecharia. The Rebbeinu Shalom himself will, standing on Har HaZeisim, this is the prophecy of standing on Har HaZeisim, where the Rebbeinu Shalom will come. Yeah. Yeah, look, I was not aware of this understanding of Melchemes Gog and Magog. I will say that the Arizal says that Gog and Magog is Begematria. Gog is 12. Magog.
64.
Well, Magog is 52. Magog is 58. Gog Magog, 12 and 58 is 70. That somehow Gog Magog represents the Shivim Umais. And we know Edom and Yishmael are representative of all Shivim Umais. They are the heads of the Shivim Umais. Right? The Vilna Gaon says in the beginning of Shir Hashirim, whenever you have the number 70, you always have two heads. You have Sanhedrin of 70, you have two heads. You have Yaakov, the nefashos of Yaakov Avinu Mitzrayim, and you have Yaakov and Yosef. You have the 70 names of God, and you have Ani V'Hoy as the two heads. The Gra says whenever you have 70, you have two heads. Okay, so let's see further. What's going to happen? He says, "V'hapam ha'shlishis hila asalava hine lamadnu mizeh shegoy gumagoy came goyei ha'yishmaelim." These are two nations of Yishmael. Who could that be? Two nations of Yishmael. Right? What else? Hadarim b'pit, the north and the east. I don't know.
Iran is north of Saudi Arabia.
Iran and Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia is the
Iran
south
is a little
and
bit
east.
to the north, Saudi Arabia is to the east.
Whoever came the first time, they'll come again. So here the Abarbanel already said 2 times black and white. Goig umagog heim Yishmaelim. V'lamanu oid shekol ha'pa'amim shabo v'yavoyu goig umagog v'yilachem Yishmaelim haya v'yiyah keneged ha'noitzim. Says the Abarbanel, don't make the mistake that Melchemes Gog umagog is against us. The same way the first 2 times the Arabs came, they weren't interested in us. They were attacking Yishmael, whether it was after the Roman occupation of Eretz Yisrael, when they destroyed the second Beis Hamikdash, or whether it's in time of the Crusades, the Yishmaelim came against Edom. The 3rd time they're coming against Edom. Loi keneged Yisrael, not against the Jewish people. V'shekein yeh ba'aseh, that's what's going to be in the future. Ukamay shepirashti b'sefer Mayonei HaYeshua, like I explained in the Sefer Mayonei HaYeshua. Because on that day we will see the miracles of God, and they will fight against those nations. God will fight both of those nations. God will fight both of those nations with a sword and with pestilence and fire and sulfur and wind. Lachein Amar. Therefore it says, Kan Hine Yoim Bal Hashem. Why is Melchemes Gog U'Magog called the day of God? Ki Oyso Yoim HaMelchama Yiyah Yoim Hashem HaGadol B'Nor. Okay. Now let's talk about the spoils. Va'amroi, and it says v'chulak shlalech b'kirbech. Ein perushai sheyechleku agoyim beineim shlal Yisraelim. It does not mean the goyim will split and divide our spoils b'kirba, like the Ibn Ezra says, like the Radak says. Avol hu yiyud toiv l'Yisrael. This is a good prophecy for the Jewish people. Shehashalosh sheshalom lehem u'may yisraelim b'chorbanos Yushalayim. All the spoils that the Arabs and the Edomim took from us throughout history, we will retake. Uvagos Yava Yom Hashem Shaz Yizku Bnei Yisrael Lakachas Meitam Oisei Shalal Sheshalu Mehem V'Yichoku Zeh Yisrael Beinehem. Okay, so now if you want to know some of the details of what's going to happen in that war, so now the Perek goes on to explain. Pasuk Beis. V'yasafti es kol hagoyim, I will gather all the nations El Yushalayim to Jerusalem LaMelchama. V'nilkada ha'ira, the city will be captured. V'noshasu habatim, the homes will be trampled. V'hanoshim tishagalna, or it's kri tishachavna, the women will be violated. V'yatza chatzi ha'ir ba'gola, half of the people will go out in exile, half of the residents of Yerushalayim will be exiled. V'yeser ha'am lo yikares v'nir, but the rest of the people will not be cut off from the city. So what's going on here? Says the Abarbanel. Ubiyar. By the way, if you want to say, well, the Abarbanel, where is he like a Das Yachid on this? The Malbim agrees with the Abarbanel. By the way, in general, you should know the Malbim's Perush is very much based on the Abarbanel. He says so himself, that he very much accepts the concepts of Abarbanel. The Malbim says in Pasuk Beis that Hashem will put in the hearts of the Goyim that they'll gather to Shalayim. Then in Yecheskel, Perek Lamed Beis, Perek Lamed Ches, we find that Ba'achris Hayomim, the Bnei Edom will gather to conquer Yerushalayim from Yishmael, and then the city will be captured, but they will not be successful in exiling everybody. Now let's see that Abarbanel in Pasuk Beis, and we'll conclude with this. Ubir eich yeh ve'eich yimashach zeh she'amar b'derech klal b'roish ha'parsha. The beginning of the parsha. In other words, this is a generalization. All the nations will gather to Shalayim, not only Gog and Magog, but also Edom and the Bnei Yishmael. So because we mentioned earlier that war, and we didn't mention, Abarbanel says, if Yerushalayim will be captured, so now the Navi is coming to explain 10 of the details of the war. We'll do the first one. Harishain. God will put in their heart to come there, that the Milchama will be renewed, that Yerushalayim will be captured, and the houses will be trampled, and the women will be violated. Why will they be violated? Of course, that's what Noitzrim do. What else do Noitzrim do when they come to a city? And half the nation will go into Galus. But what about the rest of the nation? The answer is, why will half the people remain? Says Abarbanel, not because the other half of the people will be able to resist the Noitzrim, but because the Noitzrim are so busy plundering and pillaging and destroying and violating, so they will not have a chance to turn their attention to the second half of the city. Okay, Rabbi say, stay tuned for further events of Milchemes Gog uMagog.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.